Well, hey everyone, welcome back to Kitchen Table TCG. My name's Louie. I'm joined today by Tanner, the creator of Kryptik TCG. Tanner, super stoked to have you on the channel. How are you?
What is up, my friend? I'm doing very excellent.
Very excellent. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Tanner's new game, Cryptic, is already on Kickstarter. If you're watching this, probably a couple days into the campaign, I guess. This is currently the 13th, and Kickstarter launches on the 15th. We had a video go out on how to play Cryptic today, actually, and then we'll do this, sharing Tanner and his vision behind his game, and then we'll also have a how to play video coming up in a couple weeks, I think, kind of at the end of the Kickstarter. So Tanner and I had a really fun conversation the first time we met, and I fell in love with your vision, man. I fell in love with your passion for what you're doing, and I think people need to know about it. So I'm stoked about this.
Awesome. Thank you, my friend.
Why don't you start off and tell us how you got involved in trading card games? Like, what's your background in the TCG world?
So I was born in '92, so I was right in the sweet spot for Pokemon base set. So
Yeah.
I was like a little 7, 8-year-old little nerd, obsessed with Pokemon like most of us were. And that kind of flowed into actually wanting to learn how to play. And luckily, I never had to learn how to play Pokemon because I was introduced to Magic. My stepbrother's stepdad, so my like double stepdad, actually had a bunch of like old ABU era Magic cards that weren't sleeved, were just raw, sitting in giant boxes. We would just comb through them, build decks, make up our own formats, make up our own rules a lot of the time. But then he eventually taught us to play proper Magic. So that's pretty much my background with that. Is I've always been a Magic player, and nowadays, like most people, like old farts in Magic, we just play Commander. We don't play Standard anymore. It's just too much. So now I play Commander, but that's pretty much it as far as like all other games I really have always looked at, but I've never like had a huge interest in playing. It's always been Magic. So that's pretty much it.
Awesome. And you are working on full-time becoming a game creator. Obviously, you're doing a Kickstarter to launch your first ever kind of campaign, your first ever game, your first ever set. But in your day job, you're a firefighter.
Yeah, I'm still a professional fireman. I have been for 10 years, EMT for almost 12. So
Wow.
I did night classes my senior year of high school, got my EMT. 2 weeks after I graduated high school, I was running 911 calls on an ambulance. So that's been my thing since I've been an adult. So, and I do love it, but I'm exploring new things in life and considering taking those things to a full-time status. So.
Yeah, and this is the day and age to do it. We've got a bunch of new Kickstarters coming out, not a bunch of new TCGs coming out. I'm calling this kind of like a golden age of new TCG games, and I'm super excited about it. So I want to share everyone, just hop right into it to share everyone Cryptic and show off the cards. I want to hear a little bit about your vision for the game. And I think the best way to do that, in my opinion, and I'm going to switch over to another view so people can kind of see the cards while you're talking, but I think for me, what excited me about your game is this idea of a community. How do you explain it? Community. What's your second phrase there?
Developed.
A community developed TCG. So you actually want to utilize your fans and utilize your community to help build the game in an exclusively great way. A lot of TCGs like to keep things away from their consumers until the release, right? They like to keep things back to surprise the consumers, and I'm sure you have some surprises in store, but you actually want the community to be able to help weigh in on decisions and help figure out some card balances. You guys have actually had a bunch of people in your Discord. I've just flown through your Discord today, almost 1,000 people in the Discord server already. You haven't even launched an official thing yet, and actually had gameplay and people playing the game and helping to test it out and providing you feedback of what your ideas were to really hone in the process. I think that's a really, really awesome thing. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
So the community developed thing came from just realizing and understanding that when games release, typically the community ends up finding a way to break them if it's possible anyways. So you're kind of just getting ahead of it and allowing them to break it pre-launch so that we can try to develop and kind of like dial in a game or a set in this case that is just good to go from day one. I want to avoid bans obviously as much as possible. I don't want to have to do anything to shift the meta in a certain direction because of a bad card design. So we just let the community weigh in before the launch. And we did it through a system of Google Sheets. It was really organized. My employee Q, who's the head of game development, actually developed sheets that would automatically populate spreadsheets so we could pull all that data. He would bring the good stuff to me. I would cut it down, discuss it with the other partners, and implement it when needed. So it was a really actually dialed process and ended up working really well. And one of my favorite things about it is like for future hiring and for expanding the team later, it's already giving me a huge talent pool that I can see right in front of me without having to ask any questions or seek them out. So Q actually started with Cryptic as a community developer. We built a relationship. We started playing more together. I realized literally he's a genius game designer. He nails everything he thinks of right away, is always just so spot on. So I hired him.
Yeah.
And now he's the head of game development, and he's the guy kind of driving the ship when it comes to designing Genesis.
And he is that's for those of you who watched the gameplay video, that's who I was playing against. He is certainly a game developer. I could tell by the way he was explaining the cards to me that he thought about these things in a much more mathematical way than a like an actual like like you have people who develop games, and then you have people who talk about games, you know what I mean? Like there's like the two separate categories, and it was just funny to hear. So I was like, so he's just very mathematical, very like a math genius and a linguist, and he hates that I can't pronounce cards. He told me.
Well, he's a linguist in the military, so it's like a big thing for him. But
I was like, you might want to not watch my channel.
He just stood out to me like when we were testing, and I just realized early that he was going to be the first guy we hired. So in the future, when we hire more developers, we've already got our eye on some people that are just like those really hardcore type that are just like trying to find a way to break the game, trying to find a deck that is the king of the meta. And those are the people we want, because obviously the goal is a diverse meta. You don't want to see a top 8 have 7 decks, or the top 7 be one deck and then the 8th guy be this rogue deck. That's never a good thing. So I've lived in Magic like standard formats that were like that before, where a single card led to a single strategy that dominated the entire meta, and everyone just loses interest. It just feels pointless to play. So that
and I love how innovative that is with technology. I think bringing a game and utilizing the way that we can all connect now, with the way technology is in 2022. You can have tabletop simulator, you can play test things in a way that is much different. I think that's an awesome way to start a company, or a unique experience for the TCG world too, that really changes up the way things are and creates really active and loyal fans. And I think that's something that's super important.
Yeah, and I say that specifically on the Kickstarter campaign, that leads to a bright future for Cryptic because of the buy-in these people have. And on top of that, it creates an entire other format essentially, and that play testing for the next set is its own format. So there will be Cryptic players that only ever play in the play testing format. That's the only thing that's interesting enough to them, is to try to break and develop cards over time in a set, versus like a normal standard play or competitive play. There might be people that just play testing format.
That's super cool. I like that. I like that a lot. All right. The other thing I think is really great, these are we're going to get into the weeds a little bit more, but things that really set you apart when I talk to a lot of game developers, a lot of game things, and is that you guys actually have a roadmap on your website that really helps to show people where you vision yourself going, and how you vision your company moving. I think this is super cool. So in January you launched your community developer program, and that's what we kind of just talked about, right? The community was helping to develop the game in a deep way, and that's going to continue, correct, into the next set?
Yeah, so the development of Wicked Prophecy will be occurring just prior to people getting their Genesis sealed product from the Kickstarter campaign. Maybe up to 2 months prior, but more likely like 1 month prior. So in that 1 month leading up to where you finally get your boxes, we're going to have a brand new format for everyone to play.
Yeah, awesome. And then February, you're working on card templates in the Kickstarter. March, you've got the set that is in Kickstarter is 99% complete. And then this month you're launching the Kickstarter, and then you have a tabletop simulator tournament that's going to be during the Kickstarter.
Yep, I think that we're going to be able to accomplish that by the end of April is the goal. I still have to get with Q to organize exactly how we're going to want to judge it, just to make sure it's fair for everybody, and also how we're going to allow entry, whether it's through like a lottery system or we let as many people enter as they want. But there obviously has to be some cap on it, so we have to determine a way that's fair. So it'll probably be a random draw of people that want to sign up, and then we'll have alternates, and me and Q will judge and just watch them live on a screen share and organize the tournament that way. So just got to figure out a couple little logistics things for that, and we'll be good to go.
Sure. But then you've got a whole slew of things that line up like your future. And I think, ending in a Q1 judgment tournament in Las Vegas. And that's really cool because to me, it kind of shows that you have thought out a lot of the development of the gameplay stuff. So I'm going to run through real quickly. In May, you're going to develop the next set. In June, you're going to order the Genesis print run. You're going to have an announcement in July that you don't want to tell anybody about yet. By August, you're going to have the next set 99% complete. September, you don't know what you're doing yet, to be announced. You know what you're doing, but to be announced. And then November, Genesis ships to backers, and Genesis is the Kickstarter set. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are going to get the decks are going to actually be out before November. Is that correct?
Yeah, the booster deck. So we're going to be getting the actual cards, the large print run made in Canada. And those will take about 12 weeks to make, depending on exactly how their schedule lines up and depending on our final quantity, because they're able to sneak us in much more easily if it's a lower quantity, but I foresee it being kind of above that threshold. That's why I put November, but it is realistic and I think very possible that we could actually be shipping boxes in October. But
Wow.
the booster decks are actually getting made in Southern Florida by another company, and they're digitally printed, so I have a much faster turnaround time. So we're basically just going to eat the shipping on those and get those decks out as soon as possible so that people can start playing and stores can start running events.
Yeah.
So they're going to come with event kits for the LGS tiers, and we have a plan laid out that you guys will be able to see clearly on the Kickstarter page that is going to show the progression of how we want to approach organized play.
And I love that. I love that you're going to get backers the cards like really like in some ways like sooner than a lot of other TCGs that have kickstarted previous to you. You might even beat them to getting cards. Like that's such a cool dynamic that you've got set up. And then in December you'll start working on the next set. You'll start printing the next set, and then that judgment tournament in Las Vegas. So I like that you have this year set up. Help me understand where do you hope that Cryptic goes in the future? Is this is the goal of this to be within local game stores? Are you going to be running through distribution networks? What's the end goal? Like, what do you feel like is success? Obviously, you're going to have this Kickstarter. It's going to be great. Obviously, you have another set in the works. Give me your kind of 5-year goals and visions for what Cryptic looks like.
Sure. I think that in the next year, success to me would look like building a game and company that could support a team of 5 full time. That would be like a huge measure of success for me. And I think that to do that, we're going to need to use like a hybrid approach for distribution where I will go direct to stores, but those will have to be figured out not only during the campaign as they pledge, but also after the fact when I vet stores to see if I want to do direct business with them. And there will be some level of direct to consumer for specific products, maybe like special releases or like a secret layer-esque type product. But we will also be using like traditional distribution. And a big part of that is through my research, talking to store owners. And when I went to Gamma and I talked to distributors and store owners, 100 plus of them, there was a pretty even split of people that said they'd be willing to buy direct if the game saw success. And then there was another half of the equation where they were like, if your game's not at the distributors I use, I just simply won't sell it at my store. So I do have to use a hybrid approach initially. That may change over time, especially as this industry evolves and distribution maybe continues to fall more and more out of favor in favor of direct. And as that gets easier, and that's all based on just technology and people's willingness to use it. But yeah, as we continue, our goal right now is to do 2 sets per year. That's something that we know we can attain right now. And in the future, 3 sets per year. And the standard format will rotate on a 6-set basis, 1 set at a time. So it'll be the most previous 6 sets will be legal in the standard format. So that model can carry us out for years to come. And in addition to that, we want to use what we're calling overseer sets, which will be every 3 to 4 sets that are basically functional reprints, but don't include the art that was on the original cards. We're using something kind of unique that I don't know if I've even talked about it yet, but it's essentially an art reserve list where certain arts on certain cards that are featured in Genesis and Wicked Prophecy and future sets will be designated only to those products and will never be used on a card again. and that allows us to create functional reprints for players, but not devalue the original card because it is still unique. So a big part of our plan is to try to figure out the balance of print runs, collectability, chase, and having enough game pieces for actual players.
Yeah.
And those are really the key. Of course, distribution is a huge part of that because we have to get the cards to the end consumer. But another huge part of that is just game design, making sure that the game is tight, that our sets are tight, that things stay exciting, that we keep implementing new things, and make sure that the meta is balanced and take care of the player base and the collectors. And that's pretty much the plan for the next 5 years. They'll be able to visually see a roadmap of our next 6 sets on the Kickstarter, though.
Wow, that's awesome.
Confirmation on dates and stuff.
That's awesome. I like the vision behind that. I like the kind of the scope of that, and it seems like you're looking to be in LGSs, and looks like you're looking to be within the distribution network, kind of like Magic, kind of in some ways following Magic's even standard plan. I assume that comes with some other formats down the road and down the line. Tell me why a LGS should carry your game over, the 30 other TCGs that are on the market right now, including additionally to Magic.
I would say additionally to Magic, just because Magic players, including myself, were looking for something new, something that was familiar enough and still had the same vibes and stuff that we love about games that are like Magic, but have a new type of gameplay and just fix those issues of just, it's essentially the mana, the resource system in the game, and how attacks work and how spells work. So in our game, everything's at instant speed. Combat interactions happen one by one, and every card can provide resource. So that was just fixing like fundamental issues while still maintaining a game that has a ton of flavor and lore. And our game is unique and fun because of that lore and because of that unique spice that the flavor gives to the cards. So the cards are extremely flavorful, they make sense, and the story actually lines up with how the cards work. I would say, like, instead of other games that are in this genre, what we're calling like the indie TCG genre, you've just got to look at like how things are set up, how our distribution set up, the rule book, the game itself, our images, our plan, and looking at it from a business perspective, and that being a business to business transaction, knowing that the person on the other end has that business experience and isn't going to let you down. So not only is the game great and beautiful, it's also a sound business run by somebody that knows how to run a business. So, and
this is a great segue into you're not just a fireman, you also have some business expertise in the background. You want to talk about that for a quick second?
Yeah, so I started my first business like when I had 2 years on the fire department. It's called Stronghouse Project. We sell knee sleeves, knee wraps, or straps for powerlifters. And then we opened ourselves a gym, and now we have a 5,000 square foot gym in Las Vegas where we still sell all those things. So I have experience with sourcing product, sending out product to distribution to be sold to gyms, and also shipping direct to the customer. So we've done B2B, B2C, B2B2C. So we've done every level of business in that world. And this is nothing new to us. Talking to people that manufacture the product that we need to get to our end consumer and figuring out a way to get there at a price that makes sense for them is very familiar to me.
Yeah. I could tell just from, your suit and tie that you were a business guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I think when I was first talking to you, that was one of the things that really stuck to me too, is you already have experience running a business. It's not a TCG, right? Mm-hmm. You're not Richard Garfield, who's created 15 different TCGs, but you have the experience of owning a business, running a business. You have partners too who have experience, and I think like that's a huge leg up on a lot of the other. Not all the TCGs. Obviously, we've seen some other Kickstarter TCGs that have very good experience and very good backgrounds, but we've also seen some TCGs on Kickstarter that's like they don't for sure have the experience and the know-how to run a business, and so that's a huge leg up, I think, in terms of the longevity of this project and being more than just a project and being this is a business for you. You want to do this full time, and you want this to succeed for the longevity and. To stand the test of time, if you want to say that. So awesome. Well, let's move on and talk about so we kind of talked about the LGS. I agree with your points there, so I didn't talk about that. Like from playing the game, incredibly, I come from a Magic background, incredibly easy to pick up and learn because of my background. Now, if I had never played a TCG, you still got to learn what resource systems are, you still got to learn all that, but from a Magic background, the cards feel a lot like a Magic card, but there's not the each card. Let me pop over to a card for everybody. Each card has a resource cost that's in the middle of the card, and then on the bottom each card can also be played as a land, essentially. What's the official name for those that isn't land?
It's your soul row. So when you play a card in your soul row, it becomes a soul card and can produce whatever's in that box.
Right. So each card actually acts as a resource or a card that you can play. And then additionally, what I love about it is there are cards that interact with your soul row. So once you've played it as a soul card, it's not necessary. For a lot of the cards, it is lost, but it's not necessarily lost for the rest of the game. There are abilities to get them back.
Yep.
And then the other huge difference between this and Magic is that you don't really have a life total. Like in Magic, you have a 20 life or whatever it is. In this game, you have is it 6 soul card or 6 11-year cards?
Correct.
And so when you attack, you're actually attacking your opponent's 11-year cards, which are cards from your deck, kind of like Pokemon's prize system. You pick 6 cards from your deck, and you don't pick them. Sorry, they get randomly put down. You don't know what the cards are. And if you destroy my 11-year card, it actually goes to my hand. So as my opponent are damaging me, I am actually getting stronger. And additionally, when I am at less life than you, when I have less 11-year cards than you, I additionally get to trigger some additional effects if I am considered short time. And so those two mechanics, I think, really line up for a really fun play experience. And so I think as an LGS, like, this is different enough, but I love your point that it's easy enough for a Magic player to hop in and to learn this, to pick up the deck, to learn the game, see if they enjoy it, and then buy a booster box as a result of enjoying it. So I think this is great.
I mean, those game functions actually work thematically as well. In the Cryptic Island and the lore, you have 66 years to live before you face judgment, which are represented by those 6 11-year cards. And as you get older and you run out of time going to judgment, you're a little bit older, a little bit wiser, you get a little bit stronger. So it actually just makes sense with the actual lore of the game.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's hop into talking about the Kickstarter campaign, I believe. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to chat about from the website real quick. No, we talked about the Discord. You can also play this already on Steam, which I think is a great point. All this stuff is on their website. I don't even have to leave links. I'll leave a link to the website, but you can click on all this stuff to get there. Your website's phenomenal too, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Let's hop in. I want to give you an opportunity to show off the new foiling on the cards, because I think that's been a community conversation based on box openings. They've seen the full foil, and a lot of people don't like that. And you've got something you want to share.
I'll have to let me get my focus right on here real quick. Gonna back it up a little. There it is. That's nice. Okay. Yeah, so they can see here that the card actually features a selective or masked foiling.
Gosh,
so
that looks great.
Is printed like normal ink, and then of course the background is foiled. And I've got all, like, one of each overlord with me. So
Charlie looks amazing.
And Charlie is looking pretty sick. And then we got Duke Raka, the Ascendant Overlord. Turned out really nice with that background. And Wolfric. This is a huge topic of conversation. People constantly hit me up about the actual foiling. So I just said, you know what, I'm just going to address this once and for all.
It looks like so good, man. So all the cards will have that mask foiling.
Yes. Every all 150 cards in the first, we'll get a little zoom on the face there. Beautiful. All 150 cards in the first set Genesis will actually feature a masked foil version. That way, for set collectors, if they want to collect one of each, that's totally possible. But there will be other versions of different types of foiling and different types of text that will be chase cards.
I want to show off the what's the name of the foiling that I opened?
You've got the glass foil or the shard foil from the test print.
Let me move my camera.
There you go.
Looks so cool. I'm not doing it justice right now on this camera.
It's all good.
I love it. Like the shard, like it looks 3D, like it's being exploded in a mirror. I love it. Yeah, I think that mask foiling really sets you apart too, in terms of some other stuff that we've seen. And that's great. I know it takes a ton of time, but it to me, like, that shows that you care about the feedback of, exactly what we talked about. Like your community has said this is something we want, and so you as a creator get to hear that in real time, make changes, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm commissioning somebody to make the files. They essentially just put white ink where you don't want the actual foiling to show up. They print it after the foil is applied to the card, and then they print the image on top of that opaque white layer. So you have to have a white ink file to send the printer for them to apply to the card once it's printed initially. So I already hired a designer to make white ink files for all 150 cards. And
That's awesome. All right, well, let's hop into the Kickstarter. We can talk about rarities. We can talk about the accessibility. And we talked a lot about that in our private conversation. It's an important thing for me to talk about is understanding that everybody has access to, the Kickstarter. And so I want to talk about that a little bit. And let's hop into it. So your Kickstarter launches in 2 days, but this video will probably have already come out. It might go out on the day of, I don't know, we'll see. It launches on the 15th of April. We'll see when we want to put it out, but you've got some early bird mystery packs. So the first 24 hours, pretty cool.
Yeah, the early bird thing is kind of a sensitive subject, and people really tend to lean one way or the other. I didn't want to necessarily make people that discovered the game post Kickstarter feel like they're getting punished for not being aware of the product that I never made them aware of, because that's my job as a marketer, is to make sure that they're aware of it. So I tried to do something that will be available to them as well, and give it as a slight freebie to the people that were there prior to the Kickstarter. I don't want to reward or punish anybody to a level that feels bad,
Yeah. So these will be available other than the first 24 hours as well, kind of like a random thing?
Add-on for a short period of time post first 24 hours.
Awesome. I like that. That's cool. And then you've got these limited tiers that I assume are super expensive. You got your on theme 66 booster boxes. Jeez.
Of course.
You got 9 of those, and then 2 of the super limited ones. And those, your special things here are 11 poker chips, non-hollow sheets, things that don't prevent gameplay from happening. These are collector's items that reward somebody for being the first 9 people. That's that's cool stuff. Those are all going to be sold out by the time anybody watches this, so
I hope so.
they will be, I promise. Meanwhile, then you've got your standard tiers. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but the same booster box all throughout the entire campaign, correct?
Correct.
And do you have a limit to the number of boxes that are going to be printed in this Kickstarter?
No.
I love it. This is 100% the way that I think things need to be done. This is essentially the demand for the month of the Kickstarter. It rewards people who are here early, but it prevents a group of 10 people from buying out the entire Kickstarter print run and jacking up the prices and being the only people to have a valuable asset.
The game, it needs to be played. And game pieces need to get to players. And the theory that some people have is that printing to demand in a Kickstarter campaign is actually printing above demand, because a large portion of them are flippers or will not actually participate in the game. But if you're building an awesome game and you continue to market your game, that additional sealed product in bulk that's open during those whatnot streams or whatever people want to do with the boxes post Kickstarter gets gobbled up by the new players. So if you're continuing to grow your game and grow your business, it won't be overprinted at all. You're going to run into a situation where you need to do a second wave quickly. That's what the goal really is. So,
right. And so you've got a tier that's just a set of the 4 decks and then all the stretch goals. I actually want to talk about the stretch goals in a little bit, and then you got a tier that is just a booster box. And is shipping including in these or in the prices or not?
There will be an additional charge for shipping that they'll pay in Kickstarter. So we're not going to do a backer kit where you're not really sure what you're going to end up getting charged. Typically those are pretty good and they work well, but just to simplify the process, since I don't really need any additional information that Kickstarter can't give me, I built it into the actual Kickstarter. So US prices are based on actual weight and dimensions within the US, and then the international ones are based on averages rounded down. So you're not going to pay more than you would have typically paid in a backer kit, but it's a part of your pledge and you only have to pay once and give me information once. So there's no additional steps, and nothing will be available post Kickstarter to add to pledges. I just want to make that very clear. When somebody wants to get whatever stretch goals we do, whatever add-ons we do, additional boxes, that will not be an option for you. So make sure your pledge has exactly what you want it to have on it before it concludes, or you're kind of going to be shit out of luck on whatever extra stuff you want.
Sure. And there's no limit to these standard tiers, correct?
Correct. Yeah. I wanted as many people to, especially on the box and the 3-box tier, those are going to be extremely popular for normal people, and a lot of those people are going to be people that want to play Cryptic or at least give it a try. So
Yeah.
I want to have the cards in their hand, and I don't want to limit that.
Yep. Cool. So you got a regular 1-box tier, you got a 3-box tier with a slight discount. You got the 6-box tier with another slight discount. But they also increase the backer promo card from black border to silver border to gold border, and then the overseer at the 36 booster box tier gets a green border backer card and a test print booster pack, which is super cool.
Yep. So
Awesome.
that's basically designed that, of course, as they go up, less people are going to back those. So there's going to be built-in scarcity with those cards. So the cards won't necessarily be that different. They're just having a different aesthetic and a different print run. And if you see, like, on the case tier, I also included the starter decks, and those are essentially like a freebie item because you're getting a box discount.
Yeah. That case tier is probably the one that will be the most popular, I would guess.
I think so, and it's a good value. I mean, the case price makes sense, and it's going to be a limited product. And the way we're setting it up for our chase is that there's going to be a box, case, and master case chase that's guaranteed in those products. Like we talked about previously, is like keeping that sealed premium high on cases and master cases. The only way to really do that and to ensure that is to have those guarantees.
Yeah, so a case of 6 will have a case hit. A box will have a box hit. Yep. You said a master case?
That's would be 6 booster boxes, and that would contain a specific card as well, which is like 1,296 packs. So if they're broken up into...
You mean it would be... a master kit would be 36 cases. Sorry, 6 cases.
Yes.
Yeah, you said 6 boxes. So you got a master kit that has 36 boxes within 6 cases. And then that has a master case hit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I love it.
Super sweet.
Now, is that a super rare card, or is that a card that is just a different foiling, or is it a card that's printed elsewhere for players?
It's printed elsewhere for players, and it will have a selective foiling that's different than the others, but also a different text layout, but it'll be functionally identical to the card that you can find in even the non-holo rare or noble rare slot. So
love it.
You can, I mean, you're not able to do a super chase card that's vital for gameplay, or your game's gonna suck day one. You won't be able to play the damn thing. So my dream would be that a functional card like, say, a Charlie at noble rare in non-foil would be like $5, and then the case hit would be $500, and then the super crazy master case hit would be $2,000 or something like that.
I like it. And then you've got your local game store tiers, and I absolutely love when Kickstarters do this. This shows like you need help getting your game going, and you want to reward local game stores for carrying the game and doing whatever. So the prices are lower. It includes a buy a box promo that's exclusive to LGS kit, correct?
Yes, which I do hope ends up in the end consumer's hand. I'm fully aware, because people brought it up to me already, that a lot of stores will opt to sell those cards separately from the boxes to get additional money, and I hope that they choose to do the right thing and give them to the end consumer. Nothing really I can do to control that, but it's something cool I wanted to do for the store. So.
And you can have that, that's one of those things that, like, local game stores, if you're going to actually want to carry this game in your store and you want to build a customer base, this is an awesome opportunity for you to do that. If you want just the free tendies, I'm sure you can do that, but then you lose out on all the future of the building a customer base, being able to sell the the next edition of your product or whatever it is, and it doesn't make sense for the long term, but for the short term, it is what it is.
The stores likely wouldn't end up carrying Cryptic in the long term anyways. So
and then you've got an event kit, which you want to talk a little bit about the event kit?
Yeah, so basically it'll include a promo for participators, and then it'll be a playmat for the champion and 16 booster decks, which is a product we've developed that contains 25 cards, and it's a functional deck to be used for sealed product, but it also can be used to bolster your collection because they're all standard legal cards, and it's basically a hybrid approach between the booster pack and the starter deck. So lower barrier to entry, more people play the game, they get a functional product, and you can have an easy turnkey event in a single box.
I was on the phone. I was on the call with you when you shared that for I think it was like you had created it that day, essentially.
Yeah, just thinking of it and like actually grabbing tuck boxes off the shelf and like prototyping my own shit and like making sure that it actually looked good and worked good.
And I love that idea. It's essentially it's like a better pre-release because it's already made. As a consumer, you don't have to like think through building your deck. The deck is already, relatively tuned and playable out the gate, but it's also a randomized product that can just be opened for singles and for fun.
Yeah.
It can sit on stores shelves, and then stores can say, hey, do you guys want to do an event? And people can say, yeah. They can fire it up, and if they don't want to do an event, they can just buy a pack for whatever the price is, and it's a pretty cheap. I think if I remember us talking about it, it's like a
About
pretty
$8.
cheap. Yeah, say that again. It was $8.
About $8.
Yeah,
Plus or
so
minus
pretty cheap to have on the shelf, and it's awesome. So I really like that. All right, let's move to add-ons. Are pretty basic. You've got your booster decks you can add on, starter deck set. Oh, that's what we just talked about, the booster decks.
Yep.
Yep.
You'll buy them 4 at a time just because I don't want to be shipping a single booster deck. It's not really like worth doing at that price when we're talking about that kind of volume. So that's why I had them do 4, but that also puts them in a position where they're gonna play with them.
Yeah.
You just
This
buy
is great.
one, you might not play.
Listen, if you are backing this, and if you are the only person in your play group who is backing this, and you back like a 3-box or even just a box, add on this random booster deck thing, and when you get together with your commander group or whatever to try this game out, just say, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to play the booster decks. You all get a deck, you open the deck, and you play your game, and it's a great way to a great entry into this game, I think.
Yeah. And also people that are buying boxes, if they're into like limited or draft formats, the box is specifically designed for that. And since in our game you don't need tokens or dice or any way to keep track of your life, you could show up to your group with a box and you've got everything you need to learn and play Cryptic right there in that box. So
love it.
And that's all by design for sure.
And then you got a store tier for the booster decks. You got your starter deck set. You can add a box for $111. You can add a whole LGS pack. So LGSs can add as many of the store add-ons as they want. And then you got the case. All right, starter decks have 2 booster packs. That's cool. Booster decks, and that's the early thing that's going to ship that we talked about. And then shipping, we talked about everything. So that's sweet.
And then, like you said, are basic, but that's only for day 1. We of course have a ton of additional add-ons that are going to be announced throughout the campaign that are all some things you may expect, but some things that you definitely don't. So.
I want to hear some stretch goals.
Yeah.
I want some alpha stretch goals. That's what I want. Got any stretch goals for me? I love. Have you ever heard me talk about stretch goals?
You get stoked on stretch goals, huh?
Kickstarter stretch goals are the most addicting thing in the world. It's more addicting than TCGs themselves, which is more addicting than cocaine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I've taken a lot of cues from the board game industry, because the board game industry is already established and developed on Kickstarter to a level that every single campaign is professional. They look great. They have good videos. Their images are amazing. Their prototypes are amazing. And their approach with stretch goals is very, very smart. And the approach is that they're getting additional value on their tier without spending any additional money. So they'll give you like a premium miniature or an additional pack of cards for a deck building game or something of that nature. So most of the stretch goals will be things that backers are going to get in addition to what they've already pledged to get without spending any extra money. And
a free advertisement for Cool Mini or not. Simon has you back the board game, and it's like the price that you would pay for a board game, but then you get like the board game plus a whole box plus a whole nother box of stretch goals. It's like you're like, what do I do with all this?
No, and it's cool because you end up just like getting all this fun shit you can play with the new game that you're really stoked on, and it doesn't cost you any extra money, and essentially the company eats it, and it's pretty much considered like a sunk cost or marketing expense because it's going to help to spread the game, and it helps to get people excited to pledge more and to get more people to pledge. So like the barrier is to get somebody to pledge initially, and then beyond that with add-ons and other things they can of course end up spending more money. And as from a business approach, that's what you want to do so that you can maximize your return on the actual Kickstarter, because you only have that moment and the spotlight is only on you during that time. Kickstarter only has the opportunity to pump you and to show everyone your game while you're live on their platform. So the add-ons and the announcements and the art announcements, mainly for us, the stretch goals, those are things that are going to make Kickstarter go, and maybe start recommending your game a little bit more.
Yeah, I like it. All right. What other things you want to tell? Any stretch goals? you can give away?
I'm trying to think if I can like reveal any of the really good stretch goals. There's
It's
gonna
fine. I'll just be excited when they
gonna
happen.
be some stuff, okay? I mean, there's gonna be stuff that has to do with actual cards. There's gonna be stuff that has to do with certain things that we're maybe on the edge of pursuing, that we may end up for sure pursuing if we reach certain goals. And that's actually a pure stretch goal, where the intent of the stretch goal is really what a stretch goal should be, is that this is something we want to do, it's something we're looking into. If we raise this much money, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And one of those would probably, I've heard maybe possibly from one of the boys, be a digital game that is not tabletop simulator. So something real.
Wow.
That you can
Wow.
platforms. And I also maybe possibly heard from another dude that talks to one of the guys on the team that we've actually already contracted the people to do it, and they're creating a prototype version of that to be shown during the Kickstarter campaign. So that's one of the advantages too, and we talked about it off camera, is like creators going into something like this that already have their own capital. Like, I haven't asked anybody for any money. I've used my money and my partners use their money. We can hire people like that to start developing things. Yeah. And that'll be one of our greatest advantages. I don't like talking about the other games, like other like indie TCG games,
Sure.
But like, I'm saying that'll be one of our greatest advantages in this particular like niche within a niche, is that we're one of the only ones that are like heavily capitalized prior to Kickstarter.
Well, I think there's different levels of these games, and from talking to you, from seeing your website, from seeing your Kickstarter, the goals of your game are different than the goals of some other games, and I think that's fine. I've said this before, and I firmly believe it, and I will continue to say it. The goal for any indie TCG should be to grow at scale and to not grow too fast, and then not try to be too big that you can't handle it. And your growth rate looks a lot different than some other games, and those games aren't there's no failing. It's not like you succeed more than them. It's just a different level of success. And as long as the indie TCGs create their own community that loves their game, and they don't overprint for that community, and they don't massively outscale that community, I think it's going to be a huge win for any game that can create a community that loves their product and doesn't screw over their community.
Yeah.
And so I think your scaling just looks different, and you're trying to do something that is that's bigger. I don't know that you would say that you're going to try to be the next Magic the Gathering in 2 years, but you're going to be in LGSs. You're going to be scaled up appropriately. I think an online game can even bring you some additional support and revenue, and to allow you to grow the physical card games. I know from talking to you that like you love the physical cards.
Yeah.
Like you love them. You love physical cards, and you want this to be a game that's played physically, but you can bring more people in from playing online, and then they want their LGS to carry it, that kind of thing. So I think that's really awesome.
I like playing online as well. I'm not like so diehard about the physical game that I'm just gonna like shun a digital platform. And I think, like, to your point with what we want to be, no, we don't want to be Magic in the next 2 years, but as I see it, and just being like 100% straight up and honest with you, as I see Metazoo becoming one of the big four, going from big three to big four, Metazoo being the fourth, I really do think that Cryptic can be the king of the mountain of the indie TCGs.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's a great goal to have.
Fantastic.
That's an excellent goal to have, and something that's very easily scaled into the way our business is set up.
Yeah. Well, and again, like, I think success looks like what you said for the next couple, to get 5 full-time employees. Mm-hmm. That is a completely obtainable goal, and something that you can certainly do. And this is where I'm talking about scaling. Your first goal isn't to be in 500 LGSs. Your first goal is to hire 5 employees, and then your next goal will be to be in X LGSs, or to sell X amount of product, or have X amount of consumers. And then it'll be like, okay, we need another. I love that your first goal is to expand your business. Like, that's how, when I first talked to you and I heard that, I was like, no, this guy gets it. Like, I have a very small business that's not the size of yours is going to be, but I want to hire somebody to help me do my shipping and online, sales, and also help me run my events locally. And like, I need to scale up.
Like, wonderful to have.
Yeah, like, I need somebody to help me scale my business up. So I have to take away from profits from me in order to hire somebody to help me scale to the level that I think I can be as a content creator and as a as a business person. So I think it's really awesome that you've got this roadmap, that you've got this plan. This is one of go ahead. No, you go.
I was going to say, with the goal setting thing, we never do goals that are like numeric values. We don't do we want to be in 500 stores. We want to have 1,000 active players. We don't do anything like that, because all we do is put all of our effort into something, all the marketing dollars we can afford, and dial in and hone in on that campaign to the best of our ability, and then print to the demand that we created via the marketing. And that process, rinse and repeat over time, will cause the game to grow.
Yeah. That's fantastic. This is I very, very rarely do this. I did this with one other Kickstarter, but this is a no-brainer to me. Like, if you are a lover, if you're listening and you are a lover of TCGs and you like, fun, rare opening packs, if you like set collecting, if you like playing, there is a reason for you, if you love TCGs, whether you be a collector, an investor, a player, a store. There is a reason for you to back this game, and I think you guys have a great team behind you, and so I very rarely say like this is a no-brainer, but I really think this one's one of those no-brainers that there won't be a ton of TCG. I know there's a million TCGs launching on Kickstarter right now. There won't be a ton of TCGs to these levels.
No, I think Sorcery absolutely set the new standard for the quality required of us in this actual space, and that was basically just what the board game industry has already been doing for the past few years. When they started, it was a little bit rough, and they evolved over time to these beautiful professional looking campaigns. And then look at Sorcery, a beautiful professional looking campaign with a great intro video, beautiful cards, really cool effects, and that's the new standard. And that's something I am required to meet or achieve with my campaign, and the campaign after me will then be tasked with doing the same thing. And if they can't, they'll basically just get swallowed up, because that's the new standard. And I love that Sorcery, actually the timing ended up being so perfect. I backed Sorcery, just to be clear. It ended up being perfect because there was a lot of things that I improved on in our business and our plan and campaign because I saw Sorcery, and I saw them step up the game so hard, and it inspired me to make our game better. And I tell people this in comments, like, you see I comment back on YouTube comments a lot, and the argument of like there being so many TCGs, I was like, wow, and aren't we so blessed and lucky for that? Because the end consumer wins so hard when a bunch of people compete in an industry, and that's for any industry. So when we've got 20 games and maybe 5 real like hardcore entrepreneurs that are really going after each other and trying to outdo each other, you're going to come out with 5 badass projects, and that'll affect pricing, and that'll affect quality, that'll affect distribution, everything that ends up benefiting the end consumer. So
it'll be great for the indie TCG YouTube channel too.
Of course, totally, man. And like, if we're your flavor or Sorcery's your flavor or whatever flavor you end up choosing will be better because of the others. So yeah, it's only a good thing in my opinion. And I like those guys. They got a lot of good ideas. A lot of them are good businessmen and nice people. So
yeah. And I go back to like, you've got 1,000 people in your Discord server. I would guess if you have 1,000 person in your Discord server, you have already 700 people who are very interested in your game to click the Discord, to pay attention to whatever. And like, that's a huge step forward to this process. And you're going to see Kickstarter. I have said this for 6 months now. Kickstarter is getting paid to advertise. Like everyone criticizes Kickstarter for some reason, but like Kickstarter is like the free advertising that you get paid for. It's like so ridiculous.
Amazing. I think it's an incredible platform, and as more TCG enthusiasts get onboarded to Kickstarter as consumers, the future TCGs, particularly me in this particular situation because of my timing, are going to benefit massively. So even people saying something about like putting the Kickstarter K, something very subtle and small on the card, I think that's just giving credit where credit is due, to be honest. A platform that allows us to grow our business at a kickstarted rate, like it's kickstarting a business. I'm not ashamed of that at all. I'm super proud and happy to offer the product on Kickstarter and to pay homage and to actually respect and show Kickstarter that respect by putting it on the card and saying, these are our origins. And if you don't like that, I mean, that's totally fine, but those people typically choose not to participate in Kickstarted games. So
yeah.
Not
We
really.
did not talk about post Kickstarter. You do have you've got another product it's not called first edition, right?
Hmm.
What's the next time Genesis will be offered to consumers?
So we're gonna do these print runs in waves, and essentially what it is that, like I told you earlier, the last 6 sets will be legal and standard. So at a maximum with our current schedule, a product will only be available to be printed for 36 months. And moving forward, that would be reduced if we're able to produce 3 sets per year, which is something that I would love to do within the next 3 years. So the cards will only be able to be produced for a maximum of 36 months. And instead of doing editions like first, second edition, we're going to do them in waves. And the reason I want to do this and why I think this is actually super innovative and something that people are really going to love is that each wave has its own unique chase cards and box toppers and box art, so that it'll feel like a new product with the cards that are functionally the same. So you could come up with a situation or run into a situation where there were 4 total print waves of Genesis, say maybe totaling 40,000 boxes, but there might be a specific wave that really caught on, that people really love that chase card, or they really love that box topper, and that actually might end up being the most desirable version of that product. So you're not necessarily making your first edition product more valuable automatically. I think that'll apply to this because it's a Kickstarter product, and that's viewed as kind of like the king of any printed product in that particular print run. But in the future, like say for Wicked Prophecy, wave one, maybe over the next 5-10 years, might not end up being the most valuable. Maybe wave two is, maybe wave three is. And we did that to keep it fun and unique and to keep people guessing on what they're going to see in the sealed product, but also to ensure the longevity of the product. Because we've seen, like in other games and projects, what happens to unlimited boxes, particularly when the first edition boxes are overprinted, and it can get ugly, ugly. And that's something we definitely want to avoid. And that's our job, is to avoid that and to have a good secondary market for the consumer so that they can have confidence their box is going to actually be worth something. Like, it's not my job to mess with or to interact with the secondary market. Our job starts right before that. And
Yeah.
I should say ends right before that, where if we make sure the product's good and it makes sense to the consumer, they're going to stay valuable over time. So that's why I chose to structure it in waves and call them wave boxes versus editions. And it's not just going to be a rebranded version of the first edition that has one less mark on the card. It'll actually offer new and exciting things. So I haven't seen anybody do anything like that before. And I think that I don't know how to say it. I think people are just going to copy it. I think that they're going to do
This is so good.
unlimited and second edition. They're going to change certain elements of the product. That's exactly what I'm talking about with the competitiveness developed by there being a saturated market, is that people like me create innovations like that, and then other games take note and they build upon that, and then we just end up creating better products over time. So
yeah. So essentially, Genesis is a set that's on Kickstarter. Genesis Kickstarter will come out, and then you will have from distribution a Genesis Wave 1, correct? And then when that
just to make sure that Kickstarter remains the first wave.
Oh, cool. So you have Genesis Wave 2, and then it'll come out, and that will have a limited print run. And then when that sells out from distributors, you will have a Genesis Wave 3 that will have different box toppers, different, super rares, same cards for players.
Different art. Not different art across the entire set necessarily, but different art for specific cards. Particularly
you gotta keep that Rosa art right there, because that art's sweet. But you'll have different, and then wave 3 if it needs it, and it will just basically be print to demand, but with enough specialness that will it'll have a different box art, different everything. That's really cool. I like that a lot.
A slight improvement on Magic System, basically, where they do multiple waves of a product depending on the demand for that product, and when they accidentally overprint, which is very rare, especially if you time it out over a year or two, they always end up bouncing back. But when they overprint on a product, it kind of goes to shit, but it never goes below a certain level. And I think that's just because people know how they operate. And if you're clear about how you operate and how the print runs work, people are always going to be aware of what the numbers are, and they can make decisions accordingly. So as long as I don't make any massive errors in like basically deciding how many boxes to print of each one, there's really no risk of those boxes going below. Well, they could possibly go below retail, I guess, but below like map or anything like that.
Right. Well, awesome, Tanner. This was a great, informative conversation for everyone. Go back to Kickstarter. The link to the website will be in the comment section, and then I'm sure there's a link to the Kickstarter from there. Anything else you'd like to tell people, man?
No, I mean, that's pretty much it. I appreciate you having me on, of course. I think people are gonna respond really well to this product because it's a real game that's functional and people can play it right now, totally free. Tabletop Simulator. I even have print and play files on the website, and I just want to get people playing Cryptic and enjoying it and learning about the characters and just seeing how ridiculously deep and far we went with the lore. Like some games don't really value the actual lore of the game, but for us that is a massive selling point of this game, is how deeply integrated the lore is, and we're working on ways to deliver that to people, and one of those will be announcements during the Kickstarter with lore blurbs about the different factions, relationships, and their interactions on the island. So all like the lore junkies are going to go insane over this game.
Yeah, you got a 66 box that is all about the lore. I actually already opened it. It has not been on the channel yet. It'll come out in a couple days. I was confused the whole time, and I'm sure that there will be people watching it who are like entrenched in trying to figure out what I was. I had no clue what I was doing.
They're gonna know what you're looking at.
I had no clue what I was looking at. But it's fun. The other thing I was gonna say, oh, did you have something you wanted to give away for the people who watched almost an hour into this?
Yeah, I want to do this Overlord set of foils. So on this particular set, I got them as samples from a manufacturer, and there's 80 total sets. So I say we just give away this whole set, the one I showed you guys earlier. So I'll give you a little look-see at it too, so that way you can see the card back. I've heard a little bit about like they want to change the card back, and I'm glad to tell people that we actually have changed and finalized our card back once and for all. So
awesome.
See here, these are the cards. It's Juturna, Duke Raka, Wolfric, and then I'll show you the card back here. So this is our new and final card back. The only thing different on this card back is there's a slight little star field on the final one, and it's actually from a star map of the night I thought of Cryptic.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
That's the cool. And then of course, like I said, these are the selected foils. That would be a full Overlord set.
I love it.
Juturna is beautiful. She's going to be a huge fan favorite, of course.
Yeah. You want to give that away to a random? You want to give them something to comment? You want to have them? Can I come up with an idea for you?
Yeah.
Let's have them go to the website and pick a favorite card from the card pool from Genesis, and just say my favorite card from the cards is the name of the card, and just a little blurb about why, and that'll be how you enter to win, and then we'll just kind of randomize it from there.
Yeah. Oh, that made me think of one more thing, actually, is when you guys are looking at the actual card images on the website, there will be 15 total of those public domain arts that I told you about. Those are the ones that we picked, that we developed characters around. The other 135 are original paintings or digital works. And I believe I have 8 total artists to announce during the campaign. Some of them are magic artists. Some of them, we have 1 flesh and blood artist. So there's some artists that you guys will definitely be familiar with, one of which is absolutely iconic that I cannot wait to actually announce to you guys. But I just want to make that clear that most of those are placeholders. There's only going to be actually 15 of them, and the other 8 will be replaced by the artists that are yet to be announced. So
awesome. I like it.
Day 1, we are actually going to have one live. So if they want to, oh no, they'll have already seen it. So I can just say it. It's Steve Argyle. He actually did Liliana. Yeah.
Are you freaking kidding me?
No.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
If they actually go on Tabletop Simulator right now, I have the card on Tabletop Simulator shown fully.
That is fantastic.
Full. You didn't even say anything. I'm like, I wanted you guys to get a little sneak peek at it. So I can send you the card image. It's an angel. It's an Ascendant Citizen, Felicity. So very badass piece of art. Glad I was able to work with Argyle. He's a cool ass guy. Was super nice to me the whole process. So
that's awesome.
We wanted to do a slapper on day 1. You know, we wanted to do a big one that people would know. So,
well, this will come out day 2 probably. That's probably when we'll put it out.
All right, cool.
That's cool. All right, man. Well, hey, thank you so much. Make sure you leave a comment with your favorite character or favorite card from the set in the comment section and why. And Tanner, thank you for being on the channel. Thank you for everything you're doing for the TCG world. I love that you're looking to push the boundaries and to grow this awesome industry. And I think we need more people like you. And everyone else, remember to be kind to the people around you. And we will see you again next video.
Thank you, my friend. See you guys.